The reign of the Blade Masters has ended, and the world falls into darkness. Magic is dead, and the legendary Soul Blade lost. Nation wars against nation, and the end of times are near. A man, the slave known as Rage, waits eagerly for death. But the gods have a plan, and this man's journey is only beginning. Rage, written and narrated by Mark Wahlbeck. This is a serialized installment. 1. Sweltering heat. The bars of the wagon burn to the touch. Sweat, stench, decay in the air. Yesterday there were 22. Today there are 20. Third lunar in captivity. Humiliation, deprivation. Death should be a sweeter existence than this. Celestia be cursed for lengthening his days. Rage stares at the roof of his mobile prison. Blackwood, indestructible, even against Sola. His eyes blur as he envisions the blackness taking over him. Coughing brings back the light. Not his own hacking. Dog meat. Slave number 16. Sick with the dry lung for 3 days. The darkness will come for him soon, just like Whimper and No Tongue. These slavers were paid already. It matters not if their cargo dies along the way. An odd arrangement, but understandable. "Rage," whispers Dog Meat. "Do you live?" He says nothing but lifts his hand in the air. The effort is excruciating, but talking requires more. I think Zephyr cometh soon for me," says the man with a cough. "I will put in a good word for you." Zephyr will leave his friend's corpse rotting in the Dinuba heat for the dung vultures. False gods seldom save their zealots, and the true gods let their people suffer for their own amusement. The wagon jolts upward, and moans of discomfort erupt. The road has deteriorated over the last 3 hours. Kingdom's Edge was 6 days ago, then the Dinuba Badlands. But the Badlands are still bad, getting worse. What comes after? The end of the world? A soothing sentiment. Rage rolls his head and sees dancing mesas and swirling carcass trees. The heat is enough to drive one mad. He is mad. They all are, for a sane person would embrace death. The lanky stalks of a lurker beast move past his gaze. A black rider shielded by a sun tarp sits atop, but is out of sight. Likely Punisher. The slaver keeps close to Rage. A good idea 2 moons ago, but now it doesn't matter. There is no fight left. There is no Rage. In the distance, a monolithic city of ruin waves at him like everything else. One crumbling tower holds a cracked image of a star and a sword. The old kingdom. An unexpected comfort. His ancestors had once braved the Badlands, even called it home, perhaps. Could there be more to see yet before he tastes the bitter drink? "Rage," says his friend. "Rage, I was once a great man, did you know?" He says nothing. "I was a guildsman in Ponderosa. Do you know the place?" Rage does know, but says nothing still. "I had 12 children and 3 wives," he says, voice cracking. "Very fruitful women. The second wife was of a noble line. Third cousin to the queen's sister, Veruca. Impressive, no?" Rage knew Veruca well, but not the cousin. Ghosts in the wind now. "Life is full of irony, don't you think, Rage?" "Yes, indeed." "They killed my wives and my daughters, and took my sons. Now my boys serve the very man who slaughtered their family, and they don't even know it. They don't even know I'm alive." Rage nods slowly. This is a familiar tale. "I should like them to know who did it. But it's a vain hope." Yes, vain. The Emperor is powerful and his deceptions grand. Rage feels sorry for Dog Meat, feels sorry for himself, but the sorrow is swallowed in despair. No, not despair. Nothingness. Despair invokes emotion, but there is no emotion. He is past feeling, just like the rest of these vermin. The slaves are a sight for sore eyes, hardly sellable, emaciated. Who would buy such a lot? Perhaps it's not a sale, but a death march. Yes, some here are criminals, but others are not. Slavers don't ask. Slavers don't tell. The sky turns purple and orange, sunset, the resting of Sol and the reign of Luna, relief. The convoy shifts to keep Sol in front of them. Heat exhaustion is 1 minute too long exposed to direct light. 2 minutes is death. Another lurker runs by. It sprays the wagon in piss. A vile substance, but the most desperate of them lick it from the floorboards. Rage is low, but not that low yet. He is sure the rider is laughing, likely shrill or bolder. An hour later, it is dark. The wagons stop. Keys jangle and latches are unlocked. Rage has saved all of his energy for this moment, the effort of stepping down from his cage. If he doesn't move, they'll force him out. Broken bones, then the rot, then death. So he moves and steps onto the cracked dirt, lining up with the others. A fat shadow moves from slave to slave with a drinking tin, the final water of the day. He stops at Rage and smiles, offering the tin. He reaches for it, and the man spits in the cup. It doesn't bother him. One man's spit is another man's salvation. They beat the hope from him long ago, but he wouldn't give them pleasure. Rage drinks without recoil, and the fat man scowls, moving on to the next in line. Those fulfilled moved toward a campfire already lit. There are no guards because there are no weapons among the prisoners. There is no perimeter because escape is execution, not by man but by desert. The lurkers graze on the sparse shrubs, and the guards laugh and drink near the head of the caravan. They are careless. Rage pictures wolf blades moving in the night without sound and dressed in their standard dark garbs, surrounding the slave masters. They strike in unison, not even a whimper escaping a throat. He shakes the image. Fool's dreams. There is no escape, and there are no living wolf blades. Using all his effort, he reaches downward, stretching his fingers to his feet, popping and cracking down the spine. His toes are cut and calloused and as brown as the dirt. The slaves had bathed only twice, and that while yet in the kingdom. Filth, beards, and leathered skin is what made him, what made Rage. Unrecognizable, undesirable. This is by design. The slavers seem wretched but are cunning. It's not good business for wandering strangers to recognize the cargo. He raises and walks carefully to the fire. The temperature is dropping rapidly. 2 hours from now, a ball of filthy humans will be groping for warmth in the wagon with the frost shields down. Sol is harsh, but Luna is unforgiving. Rage sits on the ground and embraces the heat. Instinct screams at him. He is vulnerable, back facing the darkness and hands lazily clasped together. Not instinct, training, habit. But there is no blade for his back tonight, and deep within, he wishes one might find him. His lowered guard is an invitation to any would-be assassination. It never comes. Movement to his left, lean build and medium height. The figure sits next to him, flame shadows flickering on his face. It's Boy from Wagon 6. Rage averts his gaze. It took months to push away the anger, then months to abandon hope and embrace despair, then weeks to feel nothing at all. But Boy ruins this, all that work. This poor lad alone in this treacherous wasteland. Rage can taste his innocence, and he shirks away. Why must they repeat this ceremony each night? It would be better if the lad died. "Do you know the stars, Rage?" he says, looking upward into the glistening expanse. Rage looks too. He sees his friends and his enemies, the old gods and the new gods. He frowns as his eyes gravitate toward the third star resting below Ariana. His star. He was supposed to find rest there one day. But he is no longer he. He is now Rage, and Rage has no star. Well, Mother told me the stars always speak truth, says Boy. That if there was no honesty or goodness in the world, at least you could find it in the heavens. Rage's own mother had spoken similar words when he was a child. Childish falsehoods to give childish comfort. That glowing red third star proved the lie. That twinkling terror was forged in blood and deception. There was no honesty in it. Not now, perhaps not ever. "Your mother is wise," says Dogmeat, sitting next to Boy. "I assume you know the name of the first star." "That's easy," says Boy, a smile forming on his lips. "Celestia." He points westward to the brightest star in the sky. Rage shakes his head. The lad shouldn't smile, shouldn't find joy where none is to be found. He will pay for that mistake soon. "Yes, that's easy," says Dogmeat. "But do you know the name of the true star? The one that came before?" The lad seems to frown, his thin cheekbones shifting slightly. He moves to speak, pauses, then shakes his head. "No, sir," says Boy. Rage knows what is coming. He is well versed in pagan lore, but won't stop the man from his fairy tales. "Zephyr," he says. "I have never heard of that," says Boy. "Not a that," says Dogmeat. "A god. The god. He who came before Celestia." "Before?" says Boy. "Yes. Celestia was his daughter. You won't find that in the imperial goddess texts that the clergy shoves down your throat. The truth of Zephyr never fit their narrative." "I don't understand," says Boy. "Well, that's not the important part. Politics, politicians, and posh pericoats." Dogmeat smiles and turns to Rage as if to share a silent joke. Rage knew many politicians, all of them corrupt. "That star you see, our beloved and bright Celestia, is not a god. It is a planet, and she lives there among the gods. Zephyr is the first and greatest of them all." A planet. That was different. Rage knew the Jacobites worshipped Zephyr as their god, but didn't realize Celestia played a role in their lore. "A planet? Like here on Sakal?" "Yes," says Dogmeat, leaning toward the lad to add dramatic effect. "He created Sakal for Celestia. She was once mortal, just like you and me, walked these very lands." "No way," says Boy, eyes wide. "That's madness." "It's true," says Dogmeat. Rage shakes his head, realizing now why Dogmeat suffers alongside him on this death march. His words are heretical, blasphemous. It's a surprise the clerics didn't execute him. Celestia created Sakal for the great kings. There is no Zephyr and no distant godly habitations. At least, so says the texts of old. Rage really doesn't care. He'd see all the gods brought low to suffer what he has suffered. He would slay them himself given the opportunity. "The first temple of Celestia is said to still be standing, not too far from this very location." "Here in the Badlands?" Dogmeat nods and points into the black horizon. "If you follow her, she'll lead you right to it, grant you your heart's desire." The boy looks in the same direction, his eyes wide with wonder, like a child leaning on a parent's every word. A distant hope sparking to life. Rage groans within. Heat rises to his chest and anger floods his mind. How foolish of the old man, giving sight to the blind. Fools! They will be dead soon, and not Zephyr or Celestia will shed a tear for them when they're gone. Food for maggots and monsters. Rage stands up and walks toward his wagon, the presence of Boy unbearable. He thinks of killing the lad, if just to spare himself from feeling whatever he is feeling. The heat of the flames fade, and the chill stabs at his cheeks. A gurgling howl, then 3 more further away tell the crowd it's time to load up and drop the frost shields. The slave masters untether the lurker beasts and climb into their own luxurious and more protected wagon at the head. The lurkers will keep the white claws away from the caravan, at least the wagons closest to the front. Deep rips on the padded frost shields remind the slaves that even behind bars they aren't safe. Rage finds a spot closest to the wall and lays down. Let the bastards come. The others funnel in and then clamber toward the middle. An hour later, ice crystals climb the floorboards like a deathly claw searching for purchase. Heavy breathing and dragging footsteps pry only a stone's throw away. Rage is tempted to lift the shield and let the monsters come. But he's tired. Maybe tomorrow.